Long before written history, early human communities sometimes settled remarkably close to volcanoes. This wasn't foolishness. Volcanic soil is rich, fresh water often springs from these slopes, and valleys near volcanoes tend to funnel game animals right past a hunter's doorstep. The danger was real, but so were the rewards, and for thousands of years, that trade-off shaped where people chose to live. Today we're going to look at what happened when that trade-off turned deadly, using a well-documented case of a family group caught in a sudden eruption to understand how early humans actually detected Sandrani's Nankali Imals right past a hunter's doorstep. Archaeological sites like those buried by eruptions in Italy, Indonesia, and Central America give us something rare, a frozen moment. Ash falls fast, and unlike most conditions that destroy soft evidence over centuries, it can preserve footprints, hut foundations, even the impressions of woven baskets. From these sites, researchers can reconstruct not just that people died, but how they were living in the hours before, and often how many almost got away. These snapshots let scientists study human decision-making under extreme stress with a level of physical evidence no oral history could ever provide. Volcanic eruptions rarely strike without any warning at all. In the days or weeks prior, there are often small earthquakes, changes in nearby spring water, and shifts in animal behavior, since animals are highly sensitive to ground vibration and gas changes. Anthropologists believe early communities near active volcanoes developed informal warning systems, passed down through elders, about which signs meant it was time to move. A family that survived likely did so not through luck alone, but because someone recognized the pattern their grandparents had once described around the fire. When an eruption did begin in earnest, the greatest threat usually wasn't the lava itself, which moved slowly enough to outwalk. The real dangers were pyroclastic flows of superheated gas and debris, and heavy ashfall that could collapse shelters or make breathing difficult. Survival meant moving immediately, and moving away from valleys and low ground, since flows and toxic gases sink and channel exactly where a stream would. Families who survived tended to head for higher, open ground, away from the path the mountain itself was pointing them down. Protecting the body from ash and heat mattered too. Wetted animal hides could be held over the face to filter breathable air and shield against falling embers, a technique inferred from burn patterns and hide remnants found at several sites. Carrying water was often prioritized over carrying possessions, since dehydration and smoke inhalation posed a more immediate threat than losing tools or shelter materials, both of which a surviving group could rebuild later with skills they still carried in their hands and memory. Group cohesion was critical during an evacuation like this. Studies of comparable disaster behavior, both ancient and modern, show that families and small bands who stayed together, moved at the pace of their slowest member, and had a designated leader making fast decisions had significantly better survival odds than scattered individuals. Children were often carried or tied close, the elderly supported rather than left behind, since every additional set of eyes watching the sky and terrain increased the group's chances of noticing danger in time to react. For the families who made it out, survival didn't end when the ash stopped falling. They faced a landscape stripped of familiar landmarks, buried water sources, and dead livestock or game. Communities often regrouped with neighboring bands, pooling tools, food stores, and shelter materials, rebuilding through cooperation rather than isolation. This kind of resilience, more than any single act of heroism, is what allowed early human populations to persist in volcanically active regions for generation after generation after generation, turning hard-won knowledge into inherited memory. That's ultimately why the footprints in the ash matter so much to us today. They show a family moving purposefully, not panicked and directionless, evidence of exactly the kind of preparedness we've been describing. It's a humbling reminder that survival against a volcano was rarely about outrunning fire. It was about reading warning signs early, understanding the terrain, protecting each other, and carrying forward the accumulated experience of every generation that had faced a mountain like this before them, and lived to pass on what they'd learned.